So Rhonda, real quick, are you going to mention the links to the support groups? Okay.
Hello, good day to everyone. We want to thank you for joining us today. We're going to be just talking through some strategies for dealing with the holidays and specifically how to support individuals who are in recovery and just managing the holidays. And then additionally, we're going to talk through some strategies that are just helpful to you if you are a support person to anyone in recovery, whether you're a service provider, a family member, a friend, or anyone else out there. We're looking forward to talking with you today about this topic. We know that the holidays can certainly be a stressful time to most in the world, and then it's no wonder that they can also, of course, add some extra pressure and stress for individuals in recovery as well. And knowing how to navigate those situations can be difficult. And so we want to help give you some resources and tips to support you in making those decisions and working through this holiday season. If you'll notice, you are going to have some options to ask questions over in the chat feature. So feel free to enter a question there if you do have one. We do have a segment at the end of this webinar where we're going to do some question and answer reviews. And so we look forward to getting any of your questions and your feedback. My name is Rhonda Roper. I am the Vice President of Clinical Services in Kentucky for Brightview Health and work closely with our clinical services and all of our multidisciplinary team members. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I've been working in the field for over 18 years and feel very honored to have had the experience of getting to work with individuals in recovery and offering them supports. And then most importantly, I've learned a lot from these individuals as well. And so a lot of the information that we'll be sharing with you today is going to be based on some of our practice experience, but also just on best practices and evidence-based research that's out there that's been shown to be very effective for individuals as well. I also have Missy Adams joining me today as well. You'll see Missy there on your screen. She is a peer support specialist at our Paris, Kentucky office, and Missy also works closely with peer support specialists across the state of Kentucky and collaborates with our team members as a key part of our multidisciplinary treatment team. Next slide. So just a brief look at our agenda today. As discussed, we're going to be talking about just how to help people in recovery stay sober through the holidays or continue moving forward in their recovery plan. We're going to talk through just handling some of the pressures that can come up related to work, school, families, or any social triggers, relationships, and any of those family situations that we might encounter. We're also going to talk briefly just about some mental health and supports and addiction correlations. This time of year can certainly cause individuals with a history of mental health needs to be triggered and can be difficult for them as well. So we're going to talk through some of those things today. And then most importantly, we've spent quite a bit of this presentation just offering some tips for coping skills, some strategies for helping individuals, and then helping you as well in supporting individuals in your life who may be going through the recovery process. We'll have some real life examples and some strategies and solutions for you. And as mentioned earlier, we are also going to have just a forum for a Q&A at the end of this webinar as well. So once again, if you do have a question, feel free to type that over into the chat, and we will look at those when we get to that section of this presentation. And so now I'd like to hand it over to Missy Adams. She's going to just start talking about some of the reasons this time of year can be difficult for individuals in recovery. Missy, I'll hand it over to you now.
Thank you, Rhonda. I'm gonna go over some things that can cause the holidays to be a trigger. It's more normalized alcohol and drug use at parties. You're in more of a party atmosphere. You know, you got your crowds, your music playing. So sometimes we think that's more acceptable to have that drink or that drug use. Financial pressure due to gift buying and travel. I think this one is a big one for a lot of people that are in recovery, especially early recovery. You know, we burnt a lot of bridges. We may just be starting to get a job. We may be trying to make financial amends, such as sorry. With the courts, we may have to be paying for them. We may have lost custody of our children, may have to pay child support. But yeah, so we're just starting to get our life together and we feel pressured to buy those gifts. There's more stress caused by hectic pace, the traffic, and crowds. I noticed in the stores, probably around Halloween, they were starting to put the Christmas decorations out. The stores were starting to get more crowded. When we go in there and we're doing our regular grocery shopping, it takes us a lot longer because it is crowded, and that can cause more stress for us. It throws off our normal routine to life. The kids are out of school. You may have to find childcare for them. They're home more, so there's more of a mess and more food that they're eating. We stop exercising and not eating healthy. You know, we're real busy, so we may not to get to cook that healthy meal and grab fast food or just whatever is convenient for us and the children. Frustration of not having time to meet our responsibilities. You know, we're used to having a structured schedule and everything is kind of thrown off during the holidays. You may not be able to get your house clean and your laundry done. This can cause stress for us and it can be a big trigger. More contact with family, being around others who drink and use drugs. You know, sometimes in our families, we still have those ones that drink and use. So this can be more stress and a trigger for us. Increased emotions from holiday memories, including grief, loneliness, and guilt. So some of us have not been there for several holidays and we struggle with the guilt. There may be a family member, a loved one not there anymore, and this may be our first holiday to cope with that. Some of us may have burned all of our bridges and we may not have family to go visit during this time. So, you know, we could feel pretty lonely. Increased anxiety regarding triggers and cravings. It's scary to think about celebrating our first holiday without the drugs and the drinking. Skipping or missing self help meetings such as AA or NA, or skipping or missing therapy. During this time, I highly encourage do not skip any. If anything, increase your meetings and your therapy appointments. Next slide, please.
Just going to say, Missy, I think it's so helpful to look at all of these various things that can be a trigger. You know, this time of year is certainly a trigger for everyone, and so just the context you've added helps make sense about why that could be more stressful for individuals, you know, who are managing their recovery themselves.
Right. It's more normalized substance use during the holidays. Why are some drugs more acceptable than others? Alcohol is globally accepted and legal to consume. You can buy alcohol in your gas stations, your grocery stores. There's almost a liquor store in every community. Even at your local Dollar General, you can buy alcohol. Alcohol kills 3 million people throughout the world every year. And there are 1 in every 20 deaths worldwide is a direct or indirect result of alcohol. Almost every holiday season, we see on the news that there's been an accident, people have lost their lives. And a lot of times it is due to consuming alcohol. Next slide. Alcohol and marijuana are glamorized. Alcohol is a depressant widely accepted to help relieve stress. A lot of people, they'll work a full-time job, come home in the evenings, and have a couple drinks. Alcohol use has been up during the pandemic with a greater increase in misuse among women than among men. I think a lot of us, we wasn't able to go to work. We were home with our children more, try to help them with their schoolwork. This increased stress, and we turned to drinking. Marijuana is slowly become legalized in many states across the country and is starting to regard as a soft drug with claims of fewer harmful consequences and less addictive tendencies. I've seen on the news as well that I think they approved medical marijuana in the state of Kentucky. Marijuana does slow down our reaction time. So if someone's been smoking marijuana, someone in front of them hits their brakes, they're less likely to hit their brakes in time to stop. Next slide.
Yeah, so let's talk just a bit about, some of the risk associated with the holidays. And now we're going to get into the segment of our presentation on just some strategies and tips to help everyone. And so when, you're thinking about hosting a holiday event, or you're an individual in recovery and you're thinking about attending a holiday event with your family or coworkers or a neighbor, whoever that person may be, the first thing that we want to recommend is just to think about that event and who you may run into that could be a trigger for you in some way. Think about the people that will be there. Think about the location of the event. What's that environment going to look like? What will the atmosphere be like? Is that a supportive environment typically? And we always encourage you to think about it from that context around the fact that it may be that normally has not been as supportive an environment. And so it's good to be realistic in thinking about that, not expecting things to just suddenly change, thinking about the pros and the cons that might occur in that situation. Think about who you may run into at the event. If there are certain individuals maybe in your life that you've not been as open with about your own life or your recovery, set up a plan for how you're going to interact with those people. And we're going to talk through some additional specifics on that as well. Next slide, please. So just as we just talked about, identifying who it may be that you're going to be running into and thinking about the context of where you're going is certainly important. And even further, to set yourself up for success, we like to use an acronym called HALT that can be really helpful. And so what that stands for, the H stands for hungry, the A stands for angry, the L stands for lonely, and the T for tired. And so what that's meaning is if you look at those different states, so being hungry, being angry, being lonely, being tired, anytime we're in one of those states, right, we're usually a little more vulnerable. We may be quick to make a fast decision. We may not be level-headed or thinking very clearly. We may just want to get through a situation and just do the first thing that comes to our mind. And so prepare yourself for that situation or that event. So not only thinking about who will be there, who you may run into, what the event would be like, but most importantly, you have the control of setting yourself up, in the most healthy way by making sure that you're going into that situation, not hungry, not feeling lonely, not feeling angry, or having an axe to grind with someone there, or feeling very tired. And so those can be some strategies that are really helpful. Going into an event, being able to go in as a volunteer is also a really helpful strategy, and just being engaged in the event, but also making sure that you have some structured time, so you have plenty to do, and you're not put in any risky situations or more vulnerable to making a decision that might be difficult. So some ways to do that could be just to help with running the event, help with the food, help with cleanup, help with activities that are going on. That list goes on and on. Find a way to volunteer and help with the event that you're attending. Shifting focus can also be a really helpful strategy. And so one of the things that we like to encourage folks to do is to go into an event with a drink in your hand. One of the common things that is pretty popular in our culture now is going in, with a water bottle or something isn't out of the norm, right? I have a glass of water sitting on my desk here right now. And so, going into that event with your water bottle in your hand or your Coke, whatever that is that you're drinking, can decrease the chances that someone may ask you if you'd like an alcoholic beverage, since they would see that you had something already in your hand. And then also just considering the alternatives. Sometimes when you're in a social situation, you can certainly feel more pressured to maybe go against what you've been doing in the past, try something once. Our minds sometimes wander to that place where we say, well, I've been doing really well. Just one drink or one thing, right, won't hurt me. And so when you find yourself, thinking that way, it's good to do something called play the tape. Playing the tape really means thinking about what might happen, both the positives and the negatives, if you do make that decision. And so, some examples we've added here are thinking about the fact that one drink might turn into 2 or 3 or 4. Heck, it may turn into a whole event of drinking. And so how could your behavior be shaped from that drinking? You may make some bad decisions. You may lose control. And you may, go against like the norms that you've been trying to follow in your life. Being prepared is also a key feature here. Again, we've talked a lot about, thinking about who you're going to run into at the event, but also being prepared around how long are you going to stay. When you're getting an invitation to just go over to a family's house and you're not sure how long that event is going to be, go ahead and set yourself up with a plan for how long you're going to stay. And it's okay to even announce that when you get in, you can do that very naturally by just saying something like, hey, I'm, really glad to be here today. I'm going to have to head out after, about an hour and a half. I've got another engagement. You can make that, as brief and concise as what's comfortable for you. But you go ahead and, set that limit ahead of time with yourself. And then you also have spoken it out loud to the folks around you. And so they may even help you remember, hey, Rhonda, you said you were only going to be able to stay about an hour and a half. It's getting close to time. I know you said you had something else that you needed to do. So again, being prepared can be very helpful there. And then also letting go of false expectations. I think we could probably perhaps do a whole presentation about this just around the holidays. How many of us have already seen multiple commercials on TV about the holidays? And while those are joyous occasions for most, it's not typical for individuals to just only have, great positive celebrations all the time at the holidays. Even individuals not in recovery, have lost family members. There will be empty seats at the table. There's financial pressures, like Missy mentioned around, gift giving and buying. And then also that sense of, pressure to make things perfect for your family or your friends or your coworkers, during the holidays. We tend to put a lot of expectations on ourselves this time of year. So letting go of, false expectations and setting up a balance within yourself, right? So realizing that everything's not going to go perfect and, everything won't go as planned. And recognizing that can be a good thing. Sometimes things don't go as planned and they turn out to be even better than what we had envisioned. Next slide. And so just in thinking through the holidays, we know that, our families and different relationships of those in our lives can definitely be an added area of focus this time of year. And so it's probably safe to say that most of the folks that are here today, we all have people in our family that we're looking forward to seeing. And we may have a few people that we're a bit more stressed about running into or spending time with. And so that is no different, for individuals in recovery. It may even be that you have someone in your family who has had some struggles with addiction, and you're planning to invite them over. And so that too can certainly add some extra stress or pressure around just making sure that you do things, correctly, and that you don't cause any extra stress for them. And so when you're thinking about ways to, get through these holiday events or get through those interactions with family, again, being prepared is very helpful in dealing with all of this. If you're an individual in recovery or you're a family member supporting someone in recovery, our recommendation for, individuals in recovery is to go into that event being prepared with what you're willing to talk about with others. It may be that you're not wanting to talk about anything related to your recovery. And so an example of some strategies, that we've used with patients before are just to say, hey, I'm doing well, and I'm in a much better place, and I'm excited to be here and spending time with you today. Change the subject, you only have to share as many details about yourself as you're comfortable with. And then on the flip, for family members, if you see someone responding like that and not really wanting to get into all the nitty gritty or all the details, don't pressure, don't continue asking questions. Just as they've changed the subject, you could do the same and start a new topic, maybe something more general. Setting boundaries is also important. Setting boundaries early on can be really effective in making sure that you stick to your plan for the event and also helping you be successful, during that event. And so, as we discussed previously, going into that situation with the plan on how long you're going to stay and, setting up a plan for what you're going to do or who you're going to help, or maybe you're going to help with the food or cleanup. Stick to those boundaries and plans. And that can certainly, help the situation be more successful. Again, offering to help is important. We did add on here also just helping with cleaning up, passing out gifts, entertaining the kids. I've heard through the years many patients say that they've helped with, just getting the kids, together for the meal, or helping keep them entertained, playing with them, starting a game, taking them outside, to get off some energy that many times they often have. So those can certainly be some successful strategies there. And recognizing differences. For individuals in recovery, it's important to, go into those situations recognizing that not everyone is going to understand your experience. Not everyone is going to get it. We still know that there is some stigma in, our society, quite a bit of stigma related to addiction. We're certainly better than we were a few years ago, but we have more work to do there. And so it may be that, you've got that one family member or acquaintance who just doesn't buy in or doesn't feel, supportive of recovery. And so we would encourage you to, avoid contact with that person. Don't go over and make, special conversation with them. Don't seek them out, to talk with them. And if you do run into them, have some rehearsed or planned strategies of some things that you're going to talk about, just so you don't get into those personal details that may make you uncomfortable. And then just the same for families. If you have individuals in your family who have been in recovery, or maybe who are taking a break from recovery, recognize those differences and that everyone's story is different. Everyone's journey is different. And we know, as with any change we're making in our lives, change takes time and change can be difficult. And so being mindful of that and recognizing those differences is really important. And then thinking about just, after these events or these family interactions are over, celebrate your successes. Same for you family members or friends out there that are hosting events. Make sure that you are, celebrating the things that you're doing to help those in your life. And then folks in recovery, treat yourself afterwards. I think Missy talks some more about some other strategies with that a little later, but it's good to celebrate our successes just as much as it is to play through and think about the things that weren't as successful. So self-care is really crucial this time of year or any time of year. And so having some of that built into the plan, if you're going over to your families on Christmas Eve or on Thanksgiving, setting yourself up a plan for that next day or maybe right after that event, something that you enjoy, something that's relaxing or that's considered a self-care activity for you. The next slide, please. And we talked about a mention of this earlier. This time of year, just as with recovery from substance use, many individuals are recovering from a history of mental health situations. Depression and anxiety are very common in our world, and so just the same, individuals in recovery also usually have had situations where they're dealing with mental health needs, and so we want to be mindful of that and just making sure that we're recognizing, and thinking about both of those things this time of year. This can certainly be a time of year for celebration, but it can also be a time that can really lead to isolation and grief for individuals. I think we mentioned previously, mourning the loss of people in your family, mourning the loss of friends. For folks in recovery, it may be that they've had to cut off certain people from their lives to protect their recovery or promote their recovery. And so even though those relationships may have had some negative features, that grieving and mourning process is still common and still typically triggered this time of year. This also, we've talked about the pressure with the holiday season, and so just the same, we do typically feel pressured, to forgive and forget this time of year. We want to make sure that we're positive and we're, interacting with all those people in our lives, maybe even those that could have hurt us or caused us, some stress or some personal discomfort. And so this time of year can certainly trigger those feelings and sometimes impact decision making. Just as I said previously, if you typically run into your Uncle Tom and he's usually not supportive of your recovery or he's questioning you, having if you do have to interact with him, having some pre-planned, statements and strategies for how you're going to kind of take control of that conversation will be very helpful. And we would encourage you, to think about that. Lowering the expectations can also be a very helpful tool this time of year. If we expect that going to every family event or work event or friend event, whatever the case may be, is going to be, positive and we're not going to have any stress, that's probably not realistic. We know that anytime we are, interacting with family, there just tends to be different norms and things that occur with families that can lead to some stress. And so going into those situations with a healthy mindset that there could be some things that happen that are unexpected today, but I've got my plan and what I'm going to do, and I'm in control of how long I stay and who I'm engaging with, during this event. Staying off social media or decreasing your time on social media can also be really helpful this time of year or any time of year, really. Around Christmas, one of the things I've heard from clients throughout the years is just a pressure around feeling like they have to give their kids the best gifts. They have to, have very positive interactions with their families and friends. There's a lot of that financial pressure that Missy mentioned mind. And then there's also that pressure when you're looking at social media. What we have to realize is that we're only seeing the pictures that those folks decided to post, right? We're not seeing every picture of that event. And so it's only selective. So that's really important to remember. And then also, we always have to think about the fact that, we comparing ourselves to others typically always leads to some pressure and stress. And so if you find that getting on Facebook and scrolling, on Thanksgiving or Christmas Eve or Christmas or New Year's, whatever the day may be, causes you to start comparing yourself to others, feeling pressure financially or feeling pressure around the things that you feel like you should be doing, that's usually a signal to cut back on that. If you know that you've experienced that in previous years, we usually encourage our patients to limit their time on there, or maybe wait and get on there a couple days after the holiday, so those views don't impact their holiday or their plan that they had in place for the holidays. And then lastly, it's also helpful this time of year just to help with isolation and grief. Maybe it is that, you don't have anyone in your support system or in your family that you can go celebrate a holiday event with. I've heard that more times than not in working with folks in recovery. And so we encourage, individuals when that's the case to try to set themselves up with a plan to be around other people, people in their sober support network, people in their support system. Maybe those folks aren't their official family, but those sober supports and things are a sort of family on their own. And so set up events and plans to be with them so you're not alone at your house with nothing to do, with your mind wandering, putting yourself at more risk for negative decision making. And then even if you're not interested in doing that, maybe you are in a state where you would just like to spend more time alone. Even going out to a place where other people are present, maybe you don't know them, maybe you're just there, but you're around others, that can also be helpful in just dealing with grief and isolation. And so I think the example we have here is a coffee shop, a store. Maybe, you go out to a sober support meeting, but you just go out to listen. You go out, to an event and you just are there to observe. There are lots of options as far as that goes. And so we encourage individuals to try to find, some activities for the holidays just to help get through that difficult time. Next slide. All right. I think Missy's going to talk now just about some specific coping skills that can be helpful. So I'll hand it over to you now, Missy.
Thank you. Supporting coping skills. Preparation. Restate your whys and what ifs. What if I run into an old acquaintance at the gas station? Mock conversations. Practice saying no. Some of us are people pleasers, and they may offer us something, and just because we don't want to say no, we take it. So plan ahead. Think about these in your head. What are you going to say? Have an escape plan for a reason to not attend last minute. So if it's too much for you, if your family or wherever you're planning on going is too much for you, it's okay not to go. Like Rhonda said earlier, try to avoid isolating. You can give back. You can go to the nursing home. Just anything to keep from being by yourself. But yeah, you do not have to go if it is too much of a trigger for you. Next slide. Recognize the risk. Who or what might be a trigger for you at a certain event? You may have a cousin or an uncle maybe used to use with them, and there's a possibility they may be there at the family get together. Know your environment or atmosphere. What can you do? What can you expect to be walking into? Maybe a neighbor has invited you over. Maybe you don't know them that well. So think about these things. Like if I walk in, what if they're drinking or using? Have an escape route. Be prepared to leave and call your support. Next slide. Play the tape through to the end. Break the euphoric recall. Sometimes our disease will lie to us and make us think of that our active addiction was a good thing. So play that tape all the way through. What happens if I do use one? Will I be able to stop there? After just one, what's next? Possibly driving under the influence. There's more than likely going to be roadblocks out. And, some people can't just stop at one. And if there is a lapse, or I like to call it a speed bump, instead of having the mentality, well, I've already relapsed, I might as well keep using. No, if you do have that lapse or you hit that speed bump, call your support. They're there to help you through this and to get you back on the right path. Fighting with family, decisions that can lead to remorse, hospitalizations, and jail. So in recovery, we're trying to not cause harm to ourselves and to others. We've worked on making amends. So we're trying to keep a good, healthy relationship with our family. If you relapse, that could lead to hospitalizations, it could lead to overdose or to jail. Next slide. Planning and role playing with patients. Model the scene, play out the possible scenarios in your head. Find someone who can role play and simulate the scenario out loud. Think of all the scenarios that could happen, when you're going out to celebrate the holidays with your family or friends. Use a prepared, reliable answer. Sometimes just a simple no thank you will work. But then there are going to be some people that are going to challenge you. So have your role play partner kick it up a notch, challenge the individual. Don't take no for an answer. They be like, well, it's free. You can just have this. A lot of times, misery loves company. So, they don't want to use alone, or sometimes they know if you do use, you're going to come back and you're going to spend money, and there goes the hard work that you've put in. Brainstorm possible alternative answers. Discuss the possible unconventional endings, ways to ensure the safety and sobriety are the end results of the situation. Like I said, sometimes a simple no thank you will work. Sometimes people do not want to share that they're in recovery, and that's fine. Myself personally, I will share, I'm trying to better myself today. I've been in recovery for several years. That's not the life I want to live anymore. Accountability. Take ownership of your outcome. Congratulate yourself. And it's always good to talk to your support before you go out, to holiday get-togethers and say, hey, this may be stressful for me. Will you be available so I can give you a call if I'm struggling or if I'm triggered or having cravings? A lot of times, they'll be there to answer your calls. There's also, 24/7 support lines that you can call to have support too. Next slide. Encouraging boundary settings. Boundaries include physical need for personal space, comfort with touch, need to rest or food, and monitoring time. Boundaries fall as self-care. A lot of times we are raised to put our children and other people's needs in before ourselves, but that's not the case. We have to take care of us to be the best version of ourselves so we can be there for our loved ones. Mental, your thought, ideas, and respect for the ideas of others. Emotional, respecting and honoring your feelings and energy. What will you share in responding to people and who respond poorly? So especially in the early days of recovery, we have a lot of emotions. We have been numbing these out. So it can be kind of overwhelming at times. So Take your time and talk to your support. Be mindful of the role of self talk. I have the right to not meet others' unreasonable expectations of me. I have the right to make my needs as important as others. I have a right to be accepting of my mistakes and failures. I have a right to say no without feeling guilty. I have a right to be treated with respect. That goes back, like Rhonda was talking about, the gratitude. Write your gratitude list of all the achievements that you have made since you've been in recovery. You've put in a lot of hard work. You've came a long way. So don't forget that. Not all relationships are positive. Be clear with expectations and boundaries. Like, this is very important. If you do not want someone in your personal space, let them know that. But yeah, self-care is very, very important. Next slide.
Yeah, so we've talked, just about some ways to support, individuals in recovery, and so I think this slide really draws attention to the fact that we've used the term supporting loved ones in recovery. So we've used the term family a lot, but I saw over in the chat, someone made a comment: friends that become family, family that become friends, and so this really can apply to anyone that you consider a loved one, or anyone in your world or in your support system. And so just wanted to draw, attention to that today. But one of the things that can be really helpful, when you're working to support your loved ones in recovery, is just to express support for their choice to get sober. If they've let you know about that, offer encouragement. Getting that reminder from you as a loved one for that individual can be just so motivating for them, and so encouraging. And so don't forget to do that. If they've not disclosed their recovery to you, but they're still in your life, and you want to acknowledge other things that you're seeing with them, we all can use encouragement any day of the week. And so encourage them on anything that you're seeing. Maybe it's just the fact that they're there for that event with you. Don't forget to recognize that. That can be so important as well. Host a substance-free event. Sometimes in the holidays, as Missy mentioned, there's a lot of commercials and things with alcohol for Christmas, and so it's okay to host an event without that. And so if you have individuals, in your life that are in recovery, that's something to think about. Hosting a substance-free event. If alcohol has to be present, don't invite people to drink. I've gone to events before, and people are offering you a drink, all the time. And so, have it available, but people can choose to partake if they want to. Don't pressure others, to engage in that. And most importantly, make some one-on-one time with any person in your family or your life that is in recovery, or that has had any difficulty with substances or any mental health needs. This is a time of year, as Missy said, for us to focus on gratitudes and really wrap our arms around people and offer support. And so the holidays, should be a time where we're looking to check in on other people and just encouraging them in any way that we can. If you've got a specific person in your family or in your life that's in recovery, just take some time to check on them. Maybe you send them a message, maybe you call them on the phone. If you can see them in person, that's even better. But use one of those formats to take some time to recognize them and check in with them. Next slide. And so we've talked a lot today about, how to get to the event, what to do when you're there. And so we also want to just be sure that we make a notation about, handling things after the event has occurred. One of the things that we know is that after the holidays, sometimes it can be a bit of a depressing period, right? We have so much anticipation of leading up to that holiday and all the planning and all of the things that we want to do. And so when the holiday event is over, it can, be disappointing and be lonely for people sometimes. Maybe they had a great holiday, but they're not going to get to interact with those people again for a while. Or maybe that's the only time of year that the family is supportive. I've heard that with patients through the years also. And so after the holiday event, we always encourage individuals in recovery to check in with their recovery community and their support system. Missy mentioned this earlier. During this time of year, we can really lose focus on what's been working for us. It's easy to just focus on, all the busy things that we need to be doing and not, practice those self-care or those techniques of what has really worked for us. And so what we always tell individuals is that if you know that, getting a certain amount of sleep is really crucial to you for your success and for you to feel good, then we want you to get that same amount of sleep, during the holidays. If you go out to a couple of events and last year you found that going out to a meeting or touching base with someone in your support system in recovery was really helpful to you, we want you to do that same thing again. Do what works. Don't expect that this time of year is any different. And then recognizing those emotions that may, come from the holidays. It may be that you ran into someone that you have not been able to make amends with, or maybe someone that's not forgiven you for something, or maybe it's that person that I mentioned earlier who just doesn't understand recovery and they don't show a lot of empathy. And so, being prepared, the fact that you could have various emotions, after these events is really helpful. But the key there is going to be to set yourself up with a plan to seek support. As Missy said, don't isolate and just ignore the way that you're feeling. Talk to someone, let them know, what you experienced. Maybe that's a counselor that you go see or a peer support that you go see at the program that you're in. If you are not in a program, find someone that's supportive of your recovery and talk to those people about how you're feeling or that person. We're going to share with you here in a bit just some 24/7 meetings that are available during the holidays. And so it may be, if you have a limited support system, that one of those could be another outlet for you to check in with some people about how you're doing. And then most importantly, celebrate those wins. If you go out to an event or to one of these situations and, 3 or 4 things go well and there's a couple of snags, then let's recognize those things that went well, the things that you did to stick to those plans, just the same as you've acknowledged those other things that you want to work on and do better. Next slide. And so Missy is going to just share some specific feedback from our patients about the holidays, just to help us be able to get some more specific, practical, insight from those folks that we serve in our communities. Missy?
It might be awkward for you at first if this is your first holiday spent sober around family in quite some time, but it can be awkward for both parties, and your family might not be entirely sure how to interact with you. This is your opportunity to be fully present and engaged in conversation, redeeming yourself, and making up for lost time. Get to know them better and let them get to know you. This is so true. Like, you're learning who you are in recovery, but your family is learning who you are as well. So be with them too. Next slide. Remember to have fun. Recovery is about being able to enjoy our lives. The Christmas lights look different in recovery. So do people's faces and smiles. We got into recovery to be able to enjoy these experiences and able to see things clearly, so enjoy it. Next slide. If you feel at risk in a situation, you are allowed to leave or avoid it altogether. There are AA or NA meetings all day and week throughout the holidays, and there are others who are in your shoes who are willing to be your temporary or long-term support. Yes, sometimes it feels kind of lonely, especially in early days of recovery, but just know that there is someone, probably several people, going through the same things that you are, and they're willing to walk beside you to make it through these challenges. Next slide. Showing up sober to a family event is worth more than any gifts money can buy. This is so true. You know, most of our parents prayed for us many a times to make it through, and you know, this is a blessing. You get to be there sober with your family. Next slide. Don't stress if you don't have financial means to buy presents. Crafting or baking is a cheaper option. Writing someone a nice letter can be just as thoughtful as a physical present. Plus, your healthy, sober presence is more than enough of a gift for your loved ones. Yes, the financial means to buy presents, like, it's okay if you can't do that. It is perfectly fine. And be careful with that guilt, because sometimes the guilt from not being there at other holidays may make you feel like you're obligated to spend that money on that gift. Next slide.
So these are just some questions that we've had come in. So we're going to talk through those. If you do have a question, put that over in the chat and we'll try to get to that today if time permits. So the first question that we received is, what's the best way to help people stay committed to their recovery while in residential treatment through the holidays? And so that's a great question. One of the things I think I would add here is just that we talked about this earlier, you know, reaching out to those people that you know that are in recovery, checking in on them. And so just the same here, you know, if you're able to call that person and check in on them, if you're able to write them a letter, if you're able to visit them, if you're able to, you know, any time you can spend to acknowledge the holidays with them would be, you know, really helpful there. On that individual's end, it would also be really helpful, you know, for them to remember their why. I think Missy talked about that, you know, previously. The plan isn't to be in residential treatment forever, you know, and so what's the goal for being there, and just thinking about, you know, what the benefits will be in the end once that treatment in that level of care is complete. And then on this next question, how can I help be there for a fellow member in recovery during the holidays that might be having a rougher time than me? Missy, do you want to take that one?
Sure. Just your support alone can help someone that is struggling. Share your story, share your experience and strength and hope with someone that is struggling themselves. And that gives them hope to see where you've came in your recovery.
I'm an employer. How can I be available to help employees? That's another great question. And so there's a few things there I think that we'd recommend. So, you know, as we've talked about throughout this presentation, this can be a stressful time of year, and many folks can really be thinking about all the things that they need to be doing for their families, for others in their lives, and for the holiday season. And so, you know, checking in with employees is one of the best ways. And then this is also just as it is a time, you know, of the year to practice gratitude. We want to practice gratitude towards employees as well. You know, just a note of thank you to employees about the things that they've done to help with wherever it is that you're working with them at can be really helpful. Since we know that substance use and mental health needs are really common for individuals in the world, you know, any supports that you can offer as an employer for employee assistance programs can also be really helpful. The employee assistance program, you know, can really help that individual reach out to, you know, to a third party for support. You know, usually counseling services or medical services are offered through that benefit, and so that may be the first step for that person, you know, in getting through that situation or making a change in their life. So those are just a few examples there. And I guess lastly, I would just add, you know, I think in knowing that, you know, substance use disorder is the public health emergency that it is, you know, as much as employers can destigmatize, you know, that the better it's going to be for the employee and for just the overall organization. People are often scared of coming forward if they're, you know, dealing with recovery issues. And so, you know, being able to do that, you know, is key. So anything that you can do at your organization to educate your staff, educate, you know, teammates around just understanding substance use disorder as another health condition can be really helpful to employees that you have on your team. Can you give me some ideas on how to still visit with family during the holidays? Missy, do you want to take that one?
Yes, so if you're early into recovery, maybe you can start your own traditions, new ones. Maybe, start playing board games with the little kids or reading a book or, anything to start your own traditions.
Are there round the clock meetings available? So I think we've posted one link for AA meetings over in the chat. We've also got a link for intherooms.com. If you're not familiar with that, that's another really great resource. So intherooms.com offers a variety of different meetings that are available. Not only are those recovery related, but there's also meetings related to mental health needs, grief, various, issues that affect us all. And so that is a great resource for you to save that link. And then those meetings run 24/7 through the holidays. And so you're able to log on there at any time. And I believe that'll also link you up with like meetings that are actually going on live in the community also. Is that correct, Missy?
Yes, they have set meetings every day. You can also get notifications on your phone. They'll pop up and tell you exactly where you are. I don't know if those are in like your local communities. They're all over the United States.
And I believe someone in our group here also has uploaded an NA meeting guide. And so that's another great resource to look for. And then we've also uploaded a list of hotline numbers that are available out there. Those hotlines offer support 24/7. And so again, those are going to be supports for, mental health needs and then recovery related ones as well. So save that link as well, just to help someone, that with that extra support. And then another question that we have here is, what is the most effective way to say no to a social drink without having to explain my sobriety front and center? And so that is another great question. And so keeping it simple, sometimes the best response is just to answer the question yes or no and move on. You don't have to provide all of that detail to someone. I've worked with patients through the years on simple responses, just like no thank you, I'm not partaking right now, or no thank you, and just moving on. That's another great time just to help you with your own comfort level, where you could start up a conversation on something else or change the subject. You have to be able to come up with a response that you're comfortable with. If you do want to share with others that you're in recovery, that's what we talked about earlier around kind of having that pre-planned, few phrases or whatever that is that you want to go to. But again, you only have to share what you're comfortable with, and just saying no can be enough. So don't forget that. I was just looking to see if we had any other questions over in the chat. And I know we're getting close to time. I'm not seeing any other questions right now. So we did want to just share some information with you. Of course, Missy and I both, we work with Brightview Health. We're proud to be just supporting individuals in our communities with recovery. And most importantly, really glad that each of you joined us today. It shows that you have an interest in supporting them as well. And so we feel very honored to have been able to just share some of these tips with you today. If you do want to refer a patient to Brightview, you're able to do that 24/7 also. You can call the hotline number that's listed there. That's 833-510-4357. You can go online and do a referral. And then we also take walk-ins. You're able to walk in any day of the week, Monday through Friday, and then we take walk-ins up to 3 p.m. If an individual does show up after 3, we still try to find a way to get them back in and set up a plan for them, so we aren't going to turn anyone away. We know that when the individual is looking for support, we want to make sure that they have it. And so if they walk in, we want to start that process with them. And again, thank you to each of you for attending. I believe on the next slide, we also went ahead and posted our individual contact information that you'll see in just a minute. So you will have my email and Missy's email if you do have a question or you want to reach out to us on anything. And then we are going to be doing this event again. We have this coming up on December the 15th, just to offer another round of this discussion before the holiday. So we're going to be doing that from 12 to 1 Eastern time on December 15th. And you can register through that link there or through scanning there as well. And so again, thank you so much for attending today. We wish each of you a safe and festive holiday season. And I really want to thank Missy for putting this on with me today. And again, everyone have a wonderful holiday and great to see you today. Thank you.